This is dralvin.com, the business of wisdom where world leaders and thinkers do come to chat. Very fortunate to have the international best-selling author Joni Parsley. Today's book is Tapestry of Faith, Discovering God's Beautiful Design in the Laughter, Tears, and Struggles of Life. So how are we doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
Probably one of the best parts of the book I can kind of relate to is the introduction by your extraordinary husband.
Aw.
And back in the day, he was mentoring your husband, but also he was mentoring me as well, Dr. Lester Sumrall.
Yes.
And during one of the trips he came to our church in Washington, D.C., we went to the airport, and there was this young, fiery evangelist, this minister, this pastor, met him there at the airport, your husband. And when I heard about this story that he had told your husband that he needs to go home and to marry you, I understand that concept because I would see him on the road like that, meeting us somewhere with Dr. Sumrall. So tell me about that story that is featured in your introduction that he gave.
Oh, it's, being around Dr. Lester Sumrall was just an amazing blessing and gift from God that molded and shaped not only my husband's life, but mine as well when I did get to follow him around in the early years of ministry. But, yes, we were both in our building years of life and dating for 7 years, actually, and that's a long time. And when Dr. Sumrall would come to church, or if I would go to a church where he was speaking and Rod was there also, he would just, I don't know, I guess he approved of me, so he would just tell him, when are you ever going to marry that girl? So we talked to him, and he gave his blessing, and we were married those 7 years later.
Yeah, because, like I said, that was the first and only time I got a chance to meet your husband in person, and for me to be able to see that scenario because, he would travel and we would meet somewhere, and I saw your husband. It was just extraordinary. So tell me about this book, Tapestry of Faith. What is it all about?
Well, it's actually just a collection of writing that I've done over the last 6 years. I started a blog back in 2008, which I decided to do after a very seminal moment in life when my daughter packed up to go to college. My son was getting ready to graduate high school, and I realized that one season of my life was really coming to a close and getting ready to transition into another season. And so for me to process a lot of feelings, writing has always been a great outlet. So I thought, well, I'm not the only one that goes through this major transition in life, so I thought I would write about it and write through it. And so I began writing the blog, and it became very well received. And it became just my journal. It's like my journal, which I've always kept journals through the years, and the blog is called Joni's Journal because it's really just a personal look into my everyday life, the ups, the downs, the peaks, the valleys, and so forth. So I just took a collection of some of those writings and summarized them in chapter form, and so it's a really easy read because it's sort of what I call like a chicken soup. You can just read, you don't have to follow chapter by chapter or page by page. You can just kind of leaf through and pick out a topic and read it, and it's so I prayerfully it'll be a real blessing to people and hopefully very relatable.
Talk about the subject of how does a person navigate change?
Well, I think an important way to navigate change is to understand what season of life you're in, embrace that season. God does have our lives in season, and He orders our steps, and Ecclesiastes definitely talks about our seasons in life. And I think if we understand where we are and what years we're in, whether we're in our building years, our giving years, I think if we understand that, we can embrace it and we can be satisfied, we can be fulfilled, and we're not looking to another season wishing we were either back in one in the glory days or ahead in the golden days or golden years. And I just think if we can embrace that season, then we can be fulfilled in it. We can fulfill God's purpose in that season for our lives. So I think to navigate change is to understand that you're about to enter some uncharted territory, and if you are willing to allow God, again, to order your steps, then it will become a lot. We won't be kicking and screaming our way through change, because nobody really likes change. We're creatures of comfort, and we like things the way we like things, and change takes steps of faith. And but God is there holding our hand the whole way through it.
Talk to me and help me with the concept of finding humor in everyday life.
Well, I think that for me personally, life can be very difficult, and I think there are just times that you just can't be so serious about everything, and that there's just some things that we can find humorous. We can look at life through, be a little more lighthearted, and there's just things that we can find humor in, that just lift our souls and lift our hearts. And so I just try to do that. I don't take myself that seriously, and I just try to find humor, because laughter is a good medicine, as Proverbs says.
The name of the book is Tapestry of Faith, Discovering God's Beautiful Design in the Laughter, Tears, and Struggles of Life. This particular chat will be featured at dralvin.com, Dr. Alvin Jones on Twitter. You can discover wisdom and brilliance there. Also, we want you to know that we're excited that we are part of this extraordinary conversation. Will be featured on dralvinradio.com. Before you go, I'd like for you to give us a final thought and tell us how we can get a copy of this book.
Oh, you can go to our website, joniparsley.com. You can order one there, or you can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or your nearest Barnes & Noble or bookstore, and get a copy. And I would love for people to get it, because I think it is something, there's something in this book that anyone and everyone can relate to, because it's just a real, honest, candid look into someone's journey through the hard times, through the good times, the ups and downs. And I just think it's just a reflection of God's grace in all of those times and His goodness. And I hope that it is a blessing to people, and that they'll enjoy these stories.
Well, thank you so very much for what you, your husband, family, and ministry have been doing over the years to make a difference all over the world. And it's an honor to get a chance to meet you. And may this be your best day ever, okay?
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It's been a real blessing.